Wonderful. Thank you so much for being here.
Absolutely.
Yes, I heard that you did a phenomenal job.
I'm glad to hear that.
I want to introduce you, Delores. So first, introduce yourself. Introduce your name and your title, and how long you've been in sales.
Oh boy, now I'm going to truly date myself. So Rochester, I am the Group Vice President for North America Cloud and Infrastructure at Oracle. I've been in sales for well over 14 years. I have a technical background, so I'm an engineer by discipline and by training. And I had the pleasure of having my MBA, so it truly balances things out, if you will, in terms of speaking the language of business. So from an overall perspective, for me, it's a meld of all great skills to make for an effective role as an executive.
Well, you do everything.
I try. That's why I'm always exhausted. I try.
What anchors you to sales? 14 years is a very long time for, and we've heard from 20 people come in for 20 years, 15 years, all that. My first question is, what anchors you to sales? What do you love about it?
Every day is different. So if you're looking for something that's very exciting, that changes on a day-to-day basis, it's very different. And that's what it gives you. It's a thrill of the chase, if you will. It's my kind of, nirvana. What's good is that you get a chance to truly impact major corporations and enterprises in a way that is material. So when you walk by, you see certain brands, you can walk and feel a sense of pride that I had something to do with that, right?
I love that.
So it's an opportunity for you to have a mass appeal, a mass impact without even really having to do bits and bytes along the way, because you're truly doing it at a corporate level. So your reach is far, your massive impact is greater. The pivot to kind of have a domino effect or a multiplier effect is significant.
That's amazing. When you first got into sales 14 years ago, I'm sure it was so much you had to navigate.
Yeah.
Especially us being Black women. There's different languages, literally, that we have to learn in order to be successful.
Absolutely.
Talk a little bit about that, and what are some ways that people who are watching this can also navigate that as well?
So I think when you get into sales, and somebody asked me, Chantel asked me this question before. She was like, she noticed some commonality between many sales leaders having a technical background. Now, I've been in tech sales my entire career. I've been in technology my entire career. I actually love it. It changes drastically. It's very transformational in terms of its impact to commerce. And one of the things that I think has always been important is having some strong foundation, because as a salesperson, it's a rejection business, right? You have to learn how to overcome people's objections. You're going to get 9 or so no's before you get that one yes, right? So you're really vying for that one left. So you really have to have thick skin. Yeah. You need to be able to bounce back quickly. You need to have a level of confidence so that you can walk into a room and command the space, because especially as Black women, it's often difficult because you walk in and most people don't think you should be there. Because there are not that many of us there to begin with, right? So you seem a little bit out of place often. And when you are there, then you get this pass where you have to almost credential yourself. And you get to the point where you have to at least own your space and be very confident in what you have to say and why you're there. So that people feel like, okay, this is somebody who ought to actually be there. We ought to have the conversation. We ought to be in a position where we can do and conduct business. Yeah. But you need to be able to have that foundation as you start. And I think that only comes with a lot of kind of feeding and building your skills, constantly learning, realizing that you cannot, if you're in an environment where you're not learning, that's not a good place to be, because you're not going to be challenged. And making sure you surround yourself by people who are not like-minded in a sense that you have groupthink, but are like-minded in sense of aligned interests and aligned career objectives and business outcomes in that sense.
Understood. You mentioned rejection, right? There's going to be a lot of rejection. Yes. And a lot of people have said that sitting on that couch. How do you handle that rejection, especially for, a young person who's just getting into sales? That could be crushing. And they could say, you know what, sales is just not for me.
Yes.
What would you say?
You only need one yes, by the way. First and foremost, you're going for that one yes. And what I will say is the following. Every time you get an objection or a rejection, the question is why? It's not about necessarily not getting what you want as much as understanding why you didn't get it. Because the more you learn from those setbacks, the more it accelerates your next engagement. And sales is not rocket science in that sense. It's really about perseverance. It's really about people buy from people that they like. is being authentic and trustworthy, because nobody likes that sleazy salesperson, right? Yeah. So you need to really make sure that you come across as that person that truly is committed to that person or that organization's success. Okay. Right. And when you do that, eventually people who have said no in the past will say, you know what, I like Del, so I'm just she keeps coming back. I'm like, well, I'll see you next week. So it's not right now, right? You're saying no right now, but I will be back next week. Let's see if we get a no next week too or not. But it's really having that level of confidence in yourself to know that it doesn't really matter. Yeah. But this is what you're there for. And what did I learn? What did I hear? Well, I heard these things the last time I was here. Right. So if I took care of those things now, what is your objection this time? Right? And it's for them to run out of the like, oh, okay, I'm just going to have to give up because she's not going away. No, I'm really going to be here. Pleasantly persistent is what I call myself, right? So that's really what it is. So I'm just having that wherewithal to know that you only need one yes. And once you get that, it just starts to like this domino effect.
You start to build that confidence.
Absolutely. That one win means so much in a person's level to feel like they know what they're doing. Yeah. It's that affirmation that says, I've got this. Right?
I think that's the key right there. It's like an affirmation.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. That's interesting. What have you taken away from this summit?
Firstly, aside from my sister, Jackie, my sister from another mother, it is so interesting, right? Very different industries, very different walks of life, but yet we've shared so many things in common, right? There's shared interests, shared challenges that we've had. We both wish we knew each other before this summit, right? Because that's part of the blessing in this all is I wish I had this 15 years ago. Yeah. Right? Because in so doing, there's so many mistakes that I could have avoided that to me now are just a core part of just naturally what I would know to do, but I didn't know to do it then. Right? And if nothing else, I would hope that these young women, young men walk away realizing that, okay, so I can do this too. And oh, by the way, that mistake I made, it's probably natural. And oh, by the way, some of the biases or unconscious biases, I'm feeling this way because it is this way. And I just need to really figure out how to course correct. Yeah. So I'm hoping that that's what they certainly took away from this, some pearls of wisdom from our experiences. But for me, it was just great affirmation to sit across from my sister there, Jackie, hear from her, learn from her. You just never know whom you're going to learn something from in a day. And by the way, she taught me how to use the LinkedIn barcode that I can now. I'm like, I just learned something new, Jackie. Thanks for blessing me. So it was a great experience for me, right? And this is my first time attending. So I'm really excited to be here. I'm very honored to have had the chance to spend some time with you all and to speak with you all and to just share some pearls of wisdom, if you will.
We do appreciate it. Jackie does have one of those souls that is just so warm and takes you in. Yes. I agree with you.
Absolutely.
I agree. You mentioned, if this would have been available when you were first coming in. Yeah. Well, what would you say to your 15-year-old, not 15-year-old self, but 15 years ago to yourself? What would you say to her? And now, knowing what you know now. Yeah. What would you say? What would be the one nugget of advice?
Take the risk. So I mentioned before that I spent 17 and a half years at IBM, right? Yes. And I was just talking to a few people afterwards that people retire from IBM. That's the old adage, right? Nobody leaves. People retire. People 40, 50 years, 30 years at IBM. And leaving IBM can be a little nerve-wracking. Right? People like, there is life after IBM is what people should recognize, right? But leaving IBM for me was the one thing that I would have done sooner, right? So being able to take that risk and take that next step and recognize that sometimes it's going to work out and sometimes it's not, right? Yeah. And learning from that and using that as an opportunity to continue to kind of build and to figure out what's next and what did I take from this experience that I can bring as a new portfolio addition to my skill set. Just making sure that you do that. So if it was one thing, it would be that one thing. And I will say that when I went to my college reunions, everybody like, you're still at IBM? And they had changed jobs 6 and 7 times. I'm like, am I doing something wrong here? But make no mistake about it. I learned a lot being there. But I think that's the one thing I would have done because I think it would have accelerated my career even faster.
Take the risk.
Take the risk. Say yes.
I like that.
Say yes.
Denise mentioned sponsorship versus mentorship in the morning session. I'm not sure if you were here for the morning session, but
I was not.
Okay. She was talking about how it's so different.
Yes.
Mentorship is the guide.
Yes.
And sponsorship is investing.
Absolutely.
Do you have a sponsor or a mentor? And what would you tell young women who are trying to get those early on in their corporate careers?
Yeah, I do have both. I have many actually, because I find that every mentor that I have has a different perspective. And the benefit that I have is the wisdom that they all give me. And then for me to put it together and say, okay, I've heard this from this person, I've heard this from this person. I think this is what this means for me, and this is what I can use it to do to kind of decide my next steps. Yeah. Sponsors are rare. Sponsors will invest their time and equity when they feel like you are worth it. So be worth it, right? Have a brand that is impeccable and without reproach. Be a person that delivers. I think I said that a few times today, right? Be somebody that delivers, that they know that wherever they put you, you're going to figure out a way. Because nobody wants to expend equity on someone who is not going to deliver, because that just depletes their equity. Yeah. So I think it's important for one to know that. So as you go to seek a mentor or a sponsor, it's important for you to be intentional, right? I would like for you to be my mentor. I've observed these things about you, and this is what I see that I can really that resonates with me. And I think that if you would be so willing to serve in that capacity, here's how I would be able to be a good mentor. Because it's a two-way street. It's not, people often think a mentor is you to me, but I give to you as a mentee as well. And I've always done that with my mentors. Yeah. You know, when they'll ask me questions like, well, why do you think that we're having a nutrition problem? I'm like, do you really want to know the answer you want to know, or do you want to know the real answer? They're like, Del, I really want to know the real answer. And I'm like, well, here's the real answer. And here's what I think you need to do about it, and see those changes made for my executive mentors as a result thereof. Sponsorship is very different, right? It is really about that person who feels so compelled, so invested in your success, that he or she will put their equity in a line behind closed doors and have those conversations on your behalf. That will pave the way for you to be in uncharted territory, but know that you're still going to be able to thrive. That's what a sponsor does. But you have to earn your way to that. And you have to make sure you choose that person wisely, and make sure that person feels committed to your success in a way that they can actually be influencing those outcomes for you, right? Anybody can't be your sponsor. Right. So it's important for you to choose wisely when you're doing that. And ask your mentor, oh, by the way, I need a sponsor. And if it's not you, who do you think that is? These were gems. Those were gems that you just dropped. And I think that a lot of people don't really understand that difference. Absolutely. Either. So thank you for, just kind of expounding on that. If someone were to approach you about mentorship or sponsorship, what would you like them to say to you, or how would you like to be approached? So I get that all the time. And I probably have more mentors than I probably ought to. But notwithstanding, I get as much from them. And I hope that I give a lot or enough to them in that process. But for me, it's about having your agenda, right? Make no mistake about it. As a Black woman, when I'm around other Black women, I am very intentional. If there's somebody there that I want to know, somebody there that I want to have a relationship with, I'm very direct about it. I'm like, this is what I've observed about you. This is what I've seen your successes to be. Here are some areas that I think I can learn from you. While it's difficult for us to establish that right now, I'd like to have some follow-on conversations to be able to do so, right? Would you be open to that? And if not now, hence my salesmanship, if not now, maybe next week, right? Maybe the week after, right? So it's all about closing the deal, right? And making sure people understand you're serious about it. And then showing up and being serious about it, being prepared, because there's nothing worse than having a mentor-mentorship relationship where you show up and there's nothing. Oh, well, I'm here. No. You actually have to come with an agenda. Here's what I'm challenged with. Here's some things I'm thinking about. Here's what I'm navigating. What are your thoughts on this? I saw that you accomplished that. Can you give me some insight? Right? Have an agenda. Make the best use of that person's time. And when you do that, then they'll feel more compelled to do the same. And when they see things that they feel like, oh, she mentioned this to me the last time, let me send her this information. Right? So you'll be top of mind for that person. Right. As a sponsor, my first question is going to be, so tell me how you've delivered thus far. And what would your boss have to say about you. If I were to call him or her and say, tell me 3 things that describe her, what would they say?
Mm.
And if
that
the
was real.
Because here's the thing, you want to make sure you are aware. You should never be surprised by what your leadership will have to say about you. Right. And if it's, well, they'll probably say that I'm a little tough to deal with because of these things. Be honest, because you don't want that person to pick up the phone and call and get something very different, because then they'll feel like they can't trust you. So it's important for you to have those questions answered, because if I'm going to put my equity on the line, I want to be doing so for somebody who's worth it. So be worth it.
Be worth it. That was another gem.
Be worth it. Yes.
I love that. One thing that I'm asking everybody is, what is one, or maybe it doesn't even have to be one strategic thing, but what has been the most strategic thing that has gotten you to where you are right now?
I think the thing that has paved the way for me is having a pretty technical background. And the reason I say that is being in tech sales, most people see salespeople as not the brightest people. Right? Sales is not, you're coming with you kind of sell to the client. You're seen as a person that can talk surface level and kind of move out of the way, right? I think because I have such a strong technical competence that, one, my engineering team respects me, right? So they know they can't talk circles around me. And as a leader, my sales team respects me. And they also realize that it's important for them to be on top of their game as a result thereof, right? Because you can't go in and tap out because your level of depth is just this much, right? Therefore, when I'm sitting in front of a client, my client respects me. They're like, oh, she has more to say than most leaders or most salesmen or women, right? So I think my technical background has really been a key differentiator for me, just in terms of having equity with whomever. Right. And a level of competence that comes with it that people just like, okay, we don't need to see if she can hang with us. Because she can. Right. But for me, it's foundational. It's not the door opener. It's just cost of entry. And that just kind of is brass tacks. But it's what gets me from there. Is just the delivering on the consistent basis. It's always thinking 10 steps ahead. It's always kind of figuring out, what can I do to make this an accelerant? What can I do to enable my team to be more successful? How do I make sure that they have what they need to be able to deliver to the business? It's always those things that come to me naturally that other people are kind of thinking about afterwards. But I'm able to get there because this other stuff, I've got that.
Wow. Well, you're very successful. So
thank you.
It's been working.
It's been working.
Yes. What are you working on right now? And how can the viewers who are going to watch this support you? How can we support you?
I'm always working on multiple things at the same time. Multifaceted is what I do all day, every day, right? So for us, it's always making sure that we have diverse talent. This is fantastic organization, right? But you guys are like a best kept secret. Can't be the case, right? We're always looking for talented men and women who are going to be able to drive in a sales profession. By the way, sales is not a traditional role for African-American women. It is not. And as a result of it, it's also very difficult to find talent or find people who want to declare this a discipline. So having access to a plethora of great talent is a great thing for me, because one of the things as a leader is you have to always be recruiting. Right? You always have to have a bench. You always have to know where the great talent is, who's looking for the next opportunity. So that's one of the major things. Then obviously, and first and foremost, is delivering for my business, right? Is making sure that we deliver. See, I hold myself to that same mantra. We deliver, because when you deliver, you have the opportunity to open doors for other things and to grow your business even more. So that's, for me, those are the two main prongs. And the delivering piece has multifaceted, kind of, here are the things that need to go into that, but that's a longer conversation. But those are the two things: talent and delivering.
I love that. Thank you so much, Delores. Thank you for coming here and sharing your light and sharing your wisdom.
Absolutely.
We do appreciate it.
Absolutely. It was my pleasure. Thank you for having us. I'm glad you guys have the brainchild and the desire, the passion to execute to something like this. I know these things are not easy undertakings. I haven't done them. So I appreciate what you're doing here. I appreciate the kind of slate of folks and keynotes that you have had. And I'm hoping that everybody who has attended walks away with at least 7 pearls, right? That they can refer back to, that helps them in just shaping their career and accelerating their journey.
That's wonderful. Thank you.
You are most welcome. Thank you, guys.